Hi there, and welcome to my channel. My name is Dorothy Eso, and I am from Dr. D underscore PhD. I will be sharing new videos every Monday and Friday, so please make sure that you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon so that you'll be the first to know when I post a new video. So today we are celebrating a teacher, an exceptional teacher, and her name is Jade Damonse. Jade has done some pretty good things during lockdown and school closures right here in Cape Town. So please, I'm not going to tell you anything further. Please watch with me as we go on this journey of mastering the art of teaching and learning right here on Dr. D underscore PhD. So there I was minding my own business, and boom, this pops up. What a refreshing sight to behold. A young teaching professional with a positive mental attitude and doing good, even during this time of a pandemic where there's so much uncertainty, turmoil, and anxiety around us. There and then I decided that this is the kind of person I would like my channel to reflect: young, vibrant, and positive teachers. Good day, Jade Damonse, and a hearty welcome as my very distinguished guest and star teacher of the month.
Good day, Dr. Eso, and thank you so much for having me.
So before we start, please tell us a little bit about this amazing person called Jade.
So again, my name and surname, I am Jade Damonse. I am a 27-year-old English and life orientation teacher at Rhodes High School. I like to believe that I'm a bubbly and passionate person, and just something interesting is that I actually love traveling.
Oh, lovely. And why is it that you decided to go for a career in teaching?
So, as cliche as it might sound, I do like to believe that teaching chose me, because if we're being honest, it was not my first choice, and my mom put it down as my second choice on my application. So only when I decided I'm not cut out to be an occupational therapist, which was my first choice, I then went on to studying B.Ed at the University of the Western Cape. And only in my second year teaching practice did I find that this is actually exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Wow, and what a benefit it is for us teaching professionals. So, Jade, what is your teaching philosophy?
I like to believe that teaching extends beyond the classroom, and my life orientation students especially can attest to this, because I like to move away and not only focus on what CAPS outlines for us, but also to share lessons with my learners which they can take when they leave the four walls of our classroom.
Okay, that's quite interesting. And the teaching style that you take on when you're in the classroom, is it a more of a facilitator, democratic style? What kind of teaching style do you have?
I do think that I am a facilitator, because I try to have minimal what we refer to as chalk and talk during my lessons. And I actually enjoy when I find myself on the floor and just moving in between the learners, listening to what they've got to say and their take on the topic.
That is absolutely amazing. Okay, let's move to the period that we are in now. During this time of COVID-19 and the lockdown, school closures, many of us went through a lot of different stages of, let's call it, some call it grief, where we had to sacrifice many of the things that we got used to, and we were confined to the four walls of our homes. What during this time frustrated you the most, especially as a teacher?
So besides, of course, having to navigate around technology, moving the classroom online, I was frustrated at the fact that I was no longer physically able to share the classroom and the space with my learners. I mean, yes, I've managed to now navigate and find myself comfortable with technology, but nothing beats that feeling of seeing the look on your students' face once they've grasped the topic, or even seeing the look when they haven't, because I mean, then you know what you need to do. So it's quite challenging not knowing all the time where my students are at during this time.
Yeah, it's quite sad. And what mechanisms did you put in place for yourself to cope with that?
It's quite funny because one of my frustrations was having to deal with technology. And that's exactly what I had to use to become comfortable in the situation, because I learned, or I had to use technology like YouTube clips to show me different ways of how I could still share space with my learners. So instead of just sending them messages or documents via our WhatsApp groups, I was able to interact with them on platforms such as Zoom or the Facebook Live, where we could still see one another and almost still have that sense of being together and being present.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. And then the day came when you made headlines. How did it come about that you decided to actually help your learners? Why did you decide to do such a crazy thing? And what exactly is it that you do? Please share with our viewers.
So the story is not as glamorous as what it's put out. It's quite, I mean, for me, it was quite heartfelt, because initially when I started my online teaching with my kids, they were all ready, because I've got a bunch of dedicated students. So they were all fired up, and numbers on the live chats and on our WhatsApp chats, it was high. And as time went on, I realized that my kids are actually becoming less interactive. At first, I thought it was just them being teenagers and the fact that they just did not want to use social media or their cell phones for academic purposes. But I then went on, when I messaged learners privately, I actually found that their parents weren't able to keep up with this new financial demand that came with teaching online. So when that happened, I noticed, or I knew that there was a need, and I felt some sort of responsibility towards my kids, because it's different when you are in a classroom and kids don't do their homework or don't bring their textbook. But what can you do when learners are waiting for social grants to buy data so that they can access learning? And just that thought, for me, I knew I had to do something. And that was when I reached out to the BackaBuddy Foundation and I created a campaign. It took about a week and a half for me to get vetted, because I needed to put down 3 references. I also needed to draft a letter where they could see that my cause was legit, and I had to basically just outline my case for them. And so after about a week and a half, my campaign went live, and the public was so generous, and it was just overwhelming, because people just bought into the campaign and they supported both my learners and I on this journey of online teaching that we are on at the moment.
I think that is absolutely amazing, because you get a lot of people who complain, and quite a few really want to make their hands dirty and get into it. Thank you so much for that, Jade. You really contributed hugely to just the quality of teachers that we have, and also to the status of the teaching profession in South Africa. Going forward, Jade, what have you learned from this experience, and how do you see your perspective in teaching as it progresses?
So the first thing that I learned, or that I realized once again, is that you are never too old to learn. And I mean, I did not know that there were all these bundles, WhatsApp bundles, social bundles, etc., that existed. But in terms of personal growth, I also realized that it is so important to be able to adapt to change. And I should have probably mentioned this in my introduction, but I am not keen on change at all. And so I thought, let me just set the scene for you. So here we are. I'm a fifth year teacher. I've already, most of my notes and lessons are prepped. 2020 comes along, I'm told that school is closing early. I have no access to my classroom when it reopens, but I still need to continue teaching. And so during that, I had to change, reshape, and restructure my lessons to what the kids needed. And I also found during this time that being in a classroom made me lazy, because I relied on my resources in the classroom, and I, of course, tweaked previous work where I saw necessary. However, having to teach online and going back to basics showed me that we need to structure our lessons in a way that benefits the interest of the learner, so their interest as well as their abilities. So not only
Well,
have I learned that I need to, adapt to change, but also my passion, I think, and my fire just for the teaching and learning process has also been refueled during this process.
wow, that is amazing. It's just amazing to hear a young person such as yourself so passionate about teaching. What then would you tell aspiring young teachers and other teaching professionals, even experienced ones? What would you tell them?
I think it's important for us as teachers to remember not to lose ourselves in this process. So, I mean, as a young teacher or as a teacher in general, the process, it's daunting, the profession is daunting. But being young and going into the profession, there's there's always people who are going to try and your voice won't be heard because you are the newbie or because you are young. And so I wish I had someone in my first year telling me to keep going and to not letting go of my passion, because at the end of the day, we need to remember that our priority is not a staff meeting, it's not a policy, it's not a CAPS document, but our priority as teachers are the kids. And so even for experienced teachers who might have found that, or might have, they feel like I've been in this for so long, it's the order of my day being a teacher. I think it's important for all of us in this profession to remember why we are here and why we have been placed in this profession.
Awesome. And now the last and the dreaded question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Do you see yourself continuing as a teacher, or are there any plans going forward to take your studies further?
So I would like to take my teaching career abroad, but of course, with the pandemic at the moment, that process needed to be slowed down at the moment. And then in terms of further studies, I haven't thought about it, but it's funny because in this week I had a conversation and I do have my honors in psychology because I was always more interested in the person as opposed to documents and policy of schooling. But I have found during these 5 years that should I decide to put my academic hat back on, I would actually go the management route in terms of further studies in education.
Oh, and I wish you everything of the best in your future. And I have hope for our teaching profession. Thank you so much, Jade, for your time and for wanting and being willing to share it with us here on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Isa, for having me, and it is my absolute pleasure.